Hey guys, what's going on? It's your big dreamer and doer, G Dinero, coming to you today with a Wealthy Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about the Bitcoin power trend. But first, remember, none of this is tax, legal, financial, investment advice. It's your buddy G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. So let's dig in. The inspiration from this, and sorry about the screenshot there with poor Matthew, was I saw Matthew Mezinskis on, he was interviewed by Knowles on what Bitcoin did. This was about a month ago. I put the podcast link right here. I'll try to link it in the up in the notes up above as well. And also I put his website on there, which is www.porkopolis.io/the chart. Okay, so that's where all this inspiration comes from. But in there, he was talking about how Bitcoin is basically increasing in value. The network is growing and increase in value over time, closely following the power law. Then you have others like Plan B that talks about Then you have others like Plan B talking about stock to flow, and there's many different people that Giovanni has a power law out there. There's a million different ways to look at how does the Bitcoin price go up over time. Is it linearly, logarithmically, exponentially, following a power law? The bottom line is this, guys. It's going up and to the right and following this power curve pretty aggressively. So what does the chart look like? Here it is right here again, porkopolis.io/the chart. This chart goes out to the 10,000th day of Bitcoin, which will fall on May 21st, 2036, from the day that I'm sitting here posting this up. This is the chart. I did this presentation. I recorded it on July the 7th. Okay, it is going up live on July the 9th. So what you'll see is that the power bars that you see there, the bands that you see there, are very similar to standard deviations bands, which are used in statistics. So this isn't following a bell curve. Finance isn't a bell curve like he says. These are percentiles. Basically looking at Bitcoin spends most of its time within the inner confines of these bands, rarely going above the 97.5 percentile and rarely going below the 2.5 percentile, 2.5 percentile, but spends most of its time in the center, similar to one standard deviation above and below the mean. Again, it's not going to be perfect. They're not going to be equidistant from each other, but it gives us a really good fit, or an R squared with a relationship around 95%. Very, very strong relationship around this this midline that you see there, the power regression line, or that black line in the middle. In the next slide, I went ahead and actually took a couple of what I would consider data points along the way. I did a series of screenshots because you have to hover over the chart and then take a screenshot. I hovered over it at another place and took a screenshot. So I was curious to see, what is it saying we're going to be at the end of the year? And what do we hear a lot of experts out in the field talk about? We hear them talk about $125,000 Bitcoin. We may be as high as $200,000 by the end of the year. And if you look on here, the power regression model at the end of the year says that we're going to be at right around $126,000 as of right now, $126,000. With the 83rd.5th percentile at 191,438. Okay, and you see that here in the middle of the screen. Why is that helpful? Because if we get anywhere up near that 85th or 83.5th percentile, anything there or above is red hot per historical deviations on this power law. And we need to start thinking about taking profits if indeed you're going to take profits. Conversely, if later on in 2026, we're down in that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 range, that's going to be probably the floor and buying opportunities there. Again, do I think we're going to go that low? I personally don't think so. I'm just sharing what this chart shows and trying to help you break it down per Matthew Mezinskis. Also, if you look all the way out, it goes out as far as the 31st of May, 2036, and the power regression, that's the midpoint, the trend line, so to speak, says that we're going to be at $2 million Bitcoin by then. So in 11 years from now, per the power regression, power law, we will be at $1,997,000 or $2 million. Could be as high as $7 million, could be as low as $500,000 in a worst case scenario per this power regression. So if we turn around and come over to the rationale behind it, these are Matthew's words, right? He published the chart following a trend line according to a power law in 2018. It was inspired by posts by Trololo and some others back in 2014 that Bitcoin's price fitted to a logarithmic regression. But as the years gone by, it's evident that it's actually tended more towards a power regression than a logarithmic regression with a very good fit. So he talks about the inputs. The inputs are y equals AXB, which is the linear, logarithmic, exponential, and power relationship. So power law is the reflected in that formula. Y is Bitcoin's price, and it's the dependent variable that they're trying to solve or regressing for. That's the trend line. Variable A is the intercept coefficient. B is the slope coefficient. Those two can be derived by any statistical computer program by inputting the pricing data, and not everyone will get the same answer. So basically, his latest coefficients are shown beneath the chart. So if we go back up to the chart, you can see his intercept coefficient, 1.43 to the minus 17th, and the slope coefficient is 5.79. So, and then he says the independent variable X is time, basically, in this case. So the days since the Genesis block, or January the 3rd, 2009. Again, I'm not a statistics guy. My son's actually majoring in statistics. Maybe he could explain this to me a little bit better. But from what I understand, it's basically a more accurate representation of where the price should be right now and could be over the next several years. If you put it on a log chart, it basically makes it look like a straight line, right? Because the logarithmic scales on the y-axis over on the left-hand side, and then the time variable is also on a log axis in this case, going all the way out to 2034. And when you go log like that, it actually squeezes it from a curve into a straight flat line up and to the right. And you can see how it starts to break through certain milestones along the way, $10,000, $1 million, etc., as you go up and to the right. As to why it follows that, it's perhaps because the adoption of Bitcoin is following a price curve, and thus the price action and supply and demand are continually converging as the planet discovers this secure digital based money, he's saying. So it's because it's actually expanding, growing on a power curve basis. So a different way of looking at it is he talks about the percent increase in time to double, and that it stays pretty much at 12.7 to 12.8% over time. So what that means is the for every 13% increase in the days of the life of Bitcoin, so every 13% longer that it exists, the price adoption of the trend doubles. And it doesn't matter where you start that. That's how power curves work, he says. So if you go back to use 2014, for instance, in the middle here, 2014 on 3/3/2014, there you were 1,886 days in. So if you take 12.7% of that, it should double in 213 days or 0.6 years, etc. So where are we right now? We're closest to the March 8th, 2024. We're in between that and the February 12th, 2026. So right now we're right around 5,900 days in the life cycle of Bitcoin. So it should take somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 to 675 more days to double from where we are right now, or according to this, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.8 years. So 1.8 years from now, we should be double whatever the current price is per this model and per the way that a power curve works. So how does it evolve? Well, the one independent variable, basically he's saying that One independent variable regression analysis is also helpful, but not just because it is simple, because it'll tell you it'll adjust with every new piece of data. So in this case, the new piece of data is each day. So if the latest price at UTC midnight, which is Greenwich Mean Time, or over there pretty much in London time, right at the international dateline, when midnight goes by and a new Bitcoin price is put in, and let's say it goes below the trend line, it'll pull the trend line down. If it's above the trend line, it'll pull the trend line up. How has that evolved over years? Well, it's been holding relatively stable since 2016. So even though the price may come in slightly above or slightly below, it equalizes that trend line out, and that trend line's been relatively constant since 2016. So basically, if you want to understand what we're talking about, take a look at what the last price is in here, and is that close, somewhat close to today's price? And $106,179 is only off by a couple $1,000s from where today's price is. It's at about 108. That says 106. So it's remarkably close at the end of the day. And this is predicting and saying that Bitcoin's price per the power trend will be around 125, 126 by the end of the year, 126,000 by the end of 2026, 175,000, 2027, 240,000, etc. Remembering that there's those standard deviations above and below, and it could be up in the 97.5 percentile, or it could be down in the 2.5 percentile, somewhere thereabouts. But more than likely will be closer to the one standard deviation one way or the other, which is kind of like the 80-20, just to put it very simply, to break it down. So it'll work within that 60-point range there in the middle, or within about one standard deviation of the line on either side. So I found this really interesting. I hope you guys did too. It talks about the trend towards doubling, how long it's going to take to double each time. You'll notice that it does slow down. That's what makes that power curve start to slow down. Instead of just going straight up or exponentially going up and to the right, it actually, as the network gets bigger, as the number of Bitcoin gets out there larger, as the dollar amount that is inside this network evolves, this number should, start to slow the growth. It's going to take an extra few months or an extra year to double compared to what it did early on in the early phases as the network was exploding. Even still, you'll see that the trend growth rate by 2035 is a 24.4% growth rate. Right now, we're averaging around 42% per this power curve model. And so pretty interesting stuff. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a like. Make sure you comment below. What'd you like best? What'd you learn? What would you like to see more of? Subscribe to my channel so you see more videos like this. Share it out to your friends so they get to see more videos like this, so they get to increase their financial literacy too. If you want to really accelerate the process, book a TradingView or technical analysis course with me. You can do that at gdinerocoaching.com. You can also book an understanding options course where I go from start to finish. You'll be trading options like a pro by the end. And of course, if you've already done courses with me in the past, feel free to jump in there and grab a one-on-one to refresh your skills and or take them to the next level. That's all at gdinerocoaching.com. And finally, I'm G Dinero. I'm here to help you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.